Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. In this video I'm going to be doing some front brakes on this 2012 Ford Escape. If you need these parts or other parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. Alright, I'm going to crack these lug nuts free. I'm just going to use a 19mm socket and a breaker bar. Loosen these up. Now I'm going to raise and support the vehicle. I'm using a 2-post lift. If you're doing this at your house, you can use a jack and jack stands. Alright, now I'm going to remove the lug nuts. It's easier to use the socket when you're taking the lug nuts off. The tire's on there pretty good. So I'm actually going to take one of the lug nuts, put it back on. Then I'm going to take a hammer, and from the back side, I'm just going to hit the tire and loosen it up. The lug nut stays on there so that the tire doesn't go flying off. Now I can remove that lug nut, pull the tire off. First thing I want to do is take this spring off. This just holds the caliper to the bracket, puts tension on the caliper. So I'm just going to use some large grooved pliers. I'm just going to squeeze right here a little bit, and then just take a screwdriver, straight blade screwdriver, get in here, pry this out a little bit. It's a good idea to wear safety glasses when you do this, just in case it goes flying. Pull that out. Now on the back side, the caliper, there's bolts that hold this to the caliper bracket. They're under these little caps, so just take a straight blade screwdriver, take the caps off. That's one. Here's the other one. Now to take these two caliper bolts out, I'm going to use a 7mm Allen socket and a ratchet. Take these out. All right, that will slide out a little bit. This is actually a caliper slide bolt. Pull that out. We'll do the same for the other one. All right, pull that out. If these bolts don't come out all the way, that's okay, as long as you pull them back a little bit, just to slide the caliper out. Now we're going to grab this caliper. We're just going to take a straight blade screwdriver, go in between the rotor and the caliper. You just want to compress the piston just a little bit, just so that we can get the caliper off. You can pry down here, slide the caliper off. The inboard pad is going to come with the caliper. You slide that out. Now I'm going to use this caliper hanger. We actually sell these at 1aauto.com. Wrap it around the coil spring and go through the caliper here. That's going to relieve tension on the hose. You don't want to just hang it from the hose. Slide that out of the way. All right, with the caliper right here, I can just remove this pad, just slide it out like that. Then we can remove this pad, just take a screwdriver. Sometimes they get stuck in here, it's frozen right there. So that's going to give you some issues when you're driving. It's not going to stop very well. Just try to slide it out. Just like that. Now we're going to remove these two caliper bracket bolts. I'm going to use a 18mm socket and a breaker bar. Loosen these up. Loosen the other one up. All right, once they're loose, you can take them out by hand. As I take this top one out, I'm going to support the caliper bracket with my other hand, and I can grab it and just slide it out. Now I'm going to take these clips off. These little retainer clips just hold the rotor on from the factory, They're not necessary for when you're driving the vehicle. I'm just going to use some straight cutters, grab the clip, and just break them off. Take that one off as well. Now this rotor, if there wasn't any corrosion on it, it would come right off. But I have corrosion, so I'm going to use a hammer and just hit right in these locations, being careful not to hit the studs. All right, this rotor's on there pretty good, so I'm actually going to take some rust penetrant, spray it down, just spray it in all the stud holes. Just spin this around and then spray it this way, let it soak for a couple minutes. Now that that's soaked for a little bit, take the hammer again, just give it some taps. And there we go. Broke free. Now I can grab the rotor, slide it off. Here's our old brakes. Here's our new brakes from 1aauto.com. If you look at the pads have the same shape and design, same grooves, same pad material on the backside. This one is the one that goes in the piston on the caliper. It has the same clip. The rotors, same height, same size, same backside. These are cross-drilled and slotted, which is a nice performance. Get yours at 1aauto.com and you'll be ready to rock and roll. All right, before we install the new rotor, we're just gonna clean this hub up. We're just gonna use a wire brush and get some of this rust off. That's why the old rotor was sticking. So just take a wire brush for the smaller areas. You wanna get a smaller wire brush. Just clean up all around here. And then on the outside, just like that. Just get some of that rust off. Now we're gonna clean up this caliper bracket. Just use a wire brush. Clean up this surface right here. We'll do the same for the other side. So there's an area, if you take the new brake pads and slide them into the bracket, these slide really nice, but sometimes there's a lot of rust buildup right in that area. So if you take a small wire brush, you can clean that rust out. Or you can take a file if the rust is really bad and just carefully file some of that rust off. You don't want to do this too much because you don't want the pads to be loose in there, but you want to at least make sure they slide nicely. Make sure that's clean. And that should be good. You take some brake parts cleaner and just clean these up. Take a rag and wipe them down. Do the same for the other side. So next I want to clean these pins. They're pretty dirty. So to just use some brake parts cleaner and a rag isn't going to do it. So I'll just use a little bit of sandpaper or emery cloth. Wrap these up. Just clean some of this off. Looks pretty good. Take a little brake parts cleaner and a rag. And it looks pretty good. And then we'll do the same with the other one. I'm just gonna slide the rotor on backwards first. Take some brake parts cleaner. Clean the back side of the rotor. There is a protective coating to prevent these from rusting. We wanna take that off before we install them. Flip it over. Take the brake parts cleaner, clean the front side. Take a rag and wipe it off. just take a lug nut, slide this on. This is just going to help keep the rotor in position, make it a little easier to install. Take the bracket and the 2 bolts for the caliper bracket, slide this in position, install the bolts. Now I'm going to take an 18mm socket and a torque wrench, and I'm going to torque these to 129 foot-pounds. I'm going to take the caliper. I'm just going to slide this off here. I'm going to flip it over. Right here, I'll take the old brake pad, slide that in there, and I'll use this caliper compressor. We actually sell this at 1aauto.com. Slide this in position and slowly twist it in. It's going to push the caliper piston in. While that's doing that, it's pushing fluid through the hoses, through the lines, back up through the master cylinder into the reservoir. So it's a good idea to check your reservoir after you're done a brake job. Now I'm going to install the brake pads. I'm just going to take a little brake caliper grease, just slide it on the ears of the pad. This pad with the clips on it is the one that's going to go into the piston. So I'll just slide this into the piston, right there, just like that. This brake pad is going to go on the outside of the caliper bracket. Just put a little grease on the ear of this, and then this one too. Be careful not to get any grease on the pad material. Just slide that in position there. Take the brake caliper and just slide that in position. Now we're just going to take these 2 brake caliper bolts. These are like slide bolts, so I'll just grease them up. Take the 6mm Allen, slide that in position, get that started, and then I'll do the same with the other one. I'll just take a ratchet and tighten these up. Then I'm going to take my 6mm Allen socket and a torque wrench, and I'm going to tighten this to 18 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to take these little caps and slide these in position. The top one that keeps all the dust out. Next we're going to install the spring. Sometimes these can be difficult to install. This just basically holds the caliper onto the bracket so it doesn't move. So I'm going to start with the top here and slide that in position there. And then we're going to pry down right here, get this in position, and then just try to, see that'll happen once in a while. Try to get this in position down there, and then just push up, push it in, just like that. You can use a pry bar if you need to, but just make sure the ears are down there and it's clipped in there. Now I'll take this nut off. We install the tire. Take the lug nuts, put the lug nuts on. Now we're going to torque these lug nuts with a 19mm socket and a torque wrench. I'm going to torque them to 100 foot-pounds, and I'm going to do that in a star pattern or a cross pattern because you want the wheel to be torqued down evenly. After I'm done the brake job, I want to make sure that I pump the brake pedal. There is going to be an air gap between the caliper piston and the brake pad. So we want to do this slow. That's going to compress the calipers. And it's starting to get hard, which is a good sign. That's good. Then I'm going to pop the hood and check the brake fluid level. Install the prop rod right there. Brake master cylinder is right here and the reservoir is on top. And if I check the brake fluid, I can just wiggle it a little bit just to see where the level is. And my max level is right here, my min's down here. So I actually don't have to adjust this level. If it was too low, you'd have to add more. Generally on top of the cap, it tells you what kind of fluid to use. And we're good to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.